set us to live. And let's see, Cheryl, if you can mute, that would be great. Okay, so let us know when we're live and we'll start the meeting.
All right, Greg, we're live.
Great. Okay, good evening and welcome to the Finance and Claims Committee meeting for Thursday, October 8th, 2020 at 7:03 p.m. We'll start the meeting with the roll call. So if you can just state that you are present when you hear your name. Council Member David Hooverman.
Present.
Council Member Tom Keegan.
Here.
Council Member Nick Sachinelli.
Present.
Council Member Diana Revelos.
Present.
Council Member George Theodoridis.
Here.
Council Member John Kides.
Here.
And Councilmember Greg Burnett, myself. So we have a full quorum for the meeting. Thank you. That will now move us to item 3 on the agenda, which is public participation. I know no emails were submitted. Larry, do we show anyone signed on to speak during this meeting?
We do not have anyone signed on to speak.
Okay, with that, I'll close public participation, which will move us into item 4, which is the approval of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting dated September 10th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Councilmember Tom Keegan moves that. Thank you. Do we have any corrections, additions, deletions from the minutes? Okay, I did not see any, and I don't see anyone else making any motion. So with that, I'll do a quick roll call vote on approving the minutes from September 10th. Councilmember David Hooverman.
Aye.
Councilmember Keegan.
Yes.
Councilmember Sachinelli.
Aye.
Councilmember Revelos.
Aye.
Councilmember Theodoridis.
Yes.
Councilmember Kides.
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So the minutes are approved from the September 10th meeting. Thank you. That will now move us into, let me share my screen here real quick. That will now move us into the claims report from our tax collector. Lisa, you're up.
Thank you. All right. For claims this month, I don't have any claims in excess of $10,000. So I don't need you to vote on that item. It's for your informational purposes only. And you'll also have, if with your permission, I'll move on to the next 2 items as well, which is the September spreadsheet report and also the September narrative report. So September 30th ended, but we were still technically in our collection cycle because October 1st was the last day to pay. So as of the end of September, we had achieved 50.11%, which was still a little bit less than last year, but we knew we still had October 1st to go. If you'll remember back in July, we were down 7+%. And then by the end of September, we were down less than 3%. So we were getting there. More people were paying. And then we were right about the halfway point with our sewer use at 49.58%. I updated this because last month, Councilman Hooverman asked me if I would be prepared on October 8th to give you an update through where we are now, in addition to the end of September. So in advance of this meeting, I ran our numbers through our work yesterday. So this does capture everything that we took in and posted from October 1st through October 7th. And we are now at 51.42%. So we went up from where was I last month? 50.11. We are now at 51.42% with approximately $180 million plus in current taxes collected through October 7th. Last year on October 31st, to show how it compares to that, last year on October 31st, we were at 52.73. So we're now at 51.42 and we still have the rest of the month of October to go. I think we're doing very well.
That's good news.
I think so. Thank you. I think it's very good news. We really weren't sure how COVID was going to affect us. We weren't sure how the grace period was going to affect us. And I think we're doing all right. And actually other tax offices throughout the state are in similar positions. I think they're doing all right as well. Part of what has helped us is the fact that we did start working on that tax sale last November. And with regard to the sale, even though we could not schedule the sale for 2020, the individual properties that were going to be a part of it, we're still arranging to make payment. And we have so far had 87 of the original 200 plus properties pay. And we collected $3.2 million towards that. That was since last November. So just almost about a year that we were working on that. We are now, the prohibition from the governor has been lifted with regard to tax sales. So we are able to schedule our next sale, which we did. We scheduled it for a year later than it would have been. So it will be the third Monday in July of 2021. And we won't really start working on that sale until we're done with past due notices for this collection. Everything this year is late because of the fact that we gave an extended grace period. So we are going to be issuing delinquent notices called demand notices. It's a technical term. The term make demand for payment is a statutory term. We are required as tax collectors to do that before we embark on any type of collection enforcement. It's not meant to imply rudeness to the taxpayer, and we try to explain that on the demand, but that is technically what it's called. It's called a demand notice, but it's a past due notice. So we will be running the files for those probably over this weekend, over Columbus Day weekend, and those will go in the mail sometime the middle of October with interest shown through October 31st. We want to get them out now so that people have an opportunity to pay sooner rather than later. And then after we do that, we'll start working on the second installment billing, which will go out mid-December, and also be working on the tax sale. You had spoken with me last month about your concern about the 6% interest for the month of October. So we did try to do as much publicity as we could so that people would know that interest on taxes is charged from the due date, which in this case was July 1st. Taxes are due in Norwalk on July 1st and January 1st. So if you're making a payment on October 2nd or later, a portion of a month is considered a full month. So rather than just being a day or two late, a taxpayer making payment now is charged for 4 months of interest: October, September, August, and July, back to July. This is by state law. We've done the best we could to try to let people know that that is what was coming. Going forward into the winter, as you know, we're at that window at the front of City Hall, but building management has informed us that they really don't want us to be there in the elements. So we're trying to figure out what else we're going to do. But we're going to be there probably through after the election. Things are really busy in the City Hall building right now because of the election. So after the election, we're going to probably have to shut that window down until the spring. But we're going to still come up with a way to allow people to come in to pay their taxes or speak with us without making an appointment. It's imperative to me to not have to make a taxpayer go through an appointment process to come in and pay taxes. So the administration is in agreement with that, and that's how we're going to try to work it going forward. That is different from most other divisions within the building where you do have to make an appointment, but their foot traffic is not as heavy as ours is. I think that's it. I'll be glad to take your questions.
Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Chairman Burnett. Lisa, I just want to say thank you for getting that additional information for us tonight. I appreciate that you took the time to do that. Thanks.
You're most welcome. My pleasure.
Yes, I wanted to thank you also, Lisa. I know we had discussed this information will be on the council agenda for Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 13th. And typically these items, because there's no formal action, will go through consent, therefore information only. But I think this is really good news. Our tax collection rate, in light of the fact that we had the extension, and there was much concern how we would come out of offering that extension. So if you're in agreement and Henry's in agreement, I'd like to take this item off of consent so you can present the numbers to the full council next Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, there's a lot of good news here. One of the other statistics Lisa runs, we've been tracking this for 31 weeks since March, comparing last year and this year. And over the 31-week period, from the beginning of March till October 5th, we are up 2.6% from last year, which translates into $4.9 million. Even if you took away the tax sale money, we're doing better than we did last year. So I think all the communication, the extra efforts Lisa's office did to have the window so that people could come in, even though City Hall was closed, have all paid off. Hopefully the reduced mill rate increases help, and we're looking forward to working with the citizens and going forward.
Great, excellent.
What I'll do, I'll rerun the numbers next week too. I'll run them through October 12th. I mean, Monday's a holiday, but I'll run it through, you know, the Friday or whatever, and see if there's anything more. But you get the general idea. But I will be there.
But we'll only present that if that's positive.
Now, Henry.
If not, we'll stop right now.
I'm sure it will be. Well, let's hope so.
We
Great.
hope. Right.
Any questions or comments related to the tax collection report? Okay, seeing none, we'll accept this as information, and as we mentioned, we'll take this item off of consent for next week, and we'll have the presentation to the full council and public on these great numbers at this point. So that'd be great. Okay, Lisa, I know you have to run, so
Thank you.
okay, great.
Thank you. It was nice to meet our new council person. Nice to meet you, Diana. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye. Nice to meet everybody. Stay well,
Great.
folks.
Yes, you too.
See you Tuesday.
Okay, so that now moves us to item 8, which is the report of Oak Hills Park Authority. And let me bring up the Oak Hills report. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the report. so with that, we have Carl Dickens, who's the president of Oak Hills Park Authority. So on to you, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Diana, welcome aboard. Good to see you. Nice to meet you. Following Henry's rule of accounting, I'm only going to give this if this is halfway good news. So I will. So if we flip to the next slide, which is the one we always talk about with our cash/revenue report, and these numbers are current as of yesterday. So this is from when we opened through the 5th of October. So this hasn't changed a lot from what you've been seeing month to month, except what you'll notice is in the green fees has gone up a wee bit, where it's at $971,000 now. And that, so you know, represents 9-hole players, 18-hole players, no outings. So the dollar amount where we talked about season passes, which was $107,000, is not in that number. This is strictly people coming up to play golf, which the 28,400 next to that, we have done 28,400 rounds of revenue golf since we opened in May. So the demand has been very high and still is. And even with the leaves starting to fall and fall coming on, the demand is still high. So you can see that that is all generated to the amount of $1.5 million in revenue for this golf season, which we're not even over with yet. Bank balance as of the 7th, $388,193. That, of course, fluctuates with the number of checks that either come in on deposit or those that get cleared. And there will be some money coming out of that. We're trying like crazy before end of year to see a bank deposit or our bank balance is somewhere in excess of $400,000. We want to try and carry that over into January and February when we don't do a lot of revenue at Oak Hills, unless we turn into a cross-country ski resort. Then we might see something different. But right now, no. Next slide, Mr. Chairman, please. So this is just our kind of our ongoing debt and our monthly bills. We're all familiar with Eversource because we all pay them. Grounds and maintenance supplies, that's just upkeeping on the course. One-to-one marketing is our online people, which takes care of our website and also takes care of search and any SOS type of advertising that we do. So the accounts payable there, $13,620. Payroll comes out tomorrow, and that'll be $39,000. I put the head count there because it's 34 as of right now. Normally this time of the year, that head count would probably be somewhere close to 40, but we've gotten through with a little less this season. So we're still down 1 or 2 people here or there, particularly on the maintenance side. So that head count represents the 39,000 that's going up for payroll. The remaining debt then for monthly debt, you add the 39 and the 13 together and you come up with the 52,620. The total payroll paid since we opened is $380,000. Total that we have paid to vendors since we opened, $498,347, of which $37,000 that has been paid back to the city from the revenue rounds due to the restructuring that occurred a year or 2 ago. And I believe that's, I'm not quite sure, but I think I'm right when I say that that's the first time that we have started making those kind of payments and that money back to the city, probably in about the last 3 years. So we want to keep that rolling and make that happen. The $200,000 was the credit line that we had, which we paid back quickly. And that's what we're trying to get to the $400,000 in the bank that I mentioned on the other slide, because we're going to try like crazy not to hit this line of credit in January and February. And even a year ago, we hit it in November to pay things like payroll and some other things. So hopefully that, let me shut this down so I don't keep hearing this whistle. That's what we're working hard to. And Henry, we're working hard to try and get this to where, and we're on track from what we were looking at today, to where we will start to be able to develop on an annual basis, but on the budget basis of actually having some cash reserve, which that hasn't happened in 12 years. So a lot of work is being put into that. Next slide, please. This is just basic payments that we made for this week, just so you know what our operations do as we go along. The GPS system is $4,000. That's what's on the carts. It's actually a really, really good expenditure. We not only saw advertising on it, but that's how we can fence off by GPS the golf course, because we can have signs probably the size of billboards that tell people don't take the cart past here and drive up on the green, and they still do it. But with the GPS system where we can actually fence it off electronically, the cart stops. And so you can't move forward. You have to put it in reverse and you have to back it up slowly. Or as I saw two guys a week ago, one guy jumped out and he was trying to push it backwards. That doesn't work because the wheels won't turn. So we drove over and told him, well, you're in a restricted zone and you got to put it in reverse. And then just miscellaneous expenses of $877. So that's the payments, comes up to $7,000 we've done this week. So as you can see, things continue to go well for us, at least financially. We still weather a little storm of some people that are starting to understand what it took this year to get started and where we're going for next season. And we appreciate that, of course. I will tell you that we are having a meeting on Monday where we're starting the first stages of our planning for next season, and everything that we deal with at the Oak Hills facility will be on the table on Monday. And then that'll lead to a couple of other meetings. And of course, that'll also be our first round of talking about pricing and per round pricing, season passes and other things going forward for January when we start doing that. We want to be able to start selling membership cards and season passes for the holidays coming up. We were a wee bit late on that last year. Best time to do that is sometime around November, early November, and then into December. And we get a lot of people that do a walk up to get something for, somebody for a holiday gift. Does anybody have any connections with the Snow and O collection to be able to put kiosk up during the holidays? No? Okay. If you happen to come across somebody or know somebody, I'd appreciate an email. Because one of the things that we're trying to look at is that, I'm sure you've all seen them when you've been in a mall over the holidays, is a kiosk that would be an Oak Hills kiosk. So that
Carl, this is John. I can help you with that.
that would be. Is this John Kites? Is that who that is?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I would appreciate that. Yeah, because we just want to do a point of purchase, and be there. If somebody's looking around shopping, and whether it's a stocking stuffer or somebody they don't know or whatever, or kids looking to buy dad something or mom something, I think they might like that. And there we are. So, and it also spreads the word, and we can spread the word about Oak Hills, totally about not only the golf, but the tennis and everything else that's great about the place. So that's really it from me tonight. That's really the report.
Great. Do we have any questions or comments?
I would invite all of you, if you haven't been out to the park lately, as the weather continues to change before the big winds come through and you see it all on the ground, it's just to come out and enjoy the scenery, because it is spectacular at this time of year.
Carl, is there any update on the restaurant piece?
That is a big part of the conversations on Monday. And we're looking at it more as a conversation Monday from being just about a restaurant situation to a food and beverage situation and operation. Because we have three opportunities for food and beverage. We have the building, we have the halfway house, and we have the tennis courts. So we're trying to look and see how we could get something going, either with a solo provider or multiple providers, where we could take care of all three of those situations and hopefully service our clientele and also find another way to generate some more money for us as well.
Okay, great. Great.
Right?
I don't see any other hands or any other questions or comments. So thank you for the presentation and continue. Good luck with the authority.
Thank
It
you.
looks-
Thank
it's
you
heading
for,
in the right direction.
thank you for your support. And this is always enjoyable to be with you guys once a month and be able to tell you about what we're doing. So I appreciate it.
Great.
See you next month.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Yes, you too.
night.
Okay, the final item on the agenda, fairly short agenda, is finance updates. And let's see, Henry was on the call, but he's not on right now. Maybe his Wi-Fi went down.
I think he left about the time that Lisa did.
Okay. Okay, well, I don't see him on right now, so we had some finance updates that he was going to provide, but I guess we'll have to suspend those items until next month. Or if there's anything of a critical nature, we'll get an email out to everyone. So I know Angela is on. Angela, did did Henry plan not to give any updates or?
Oh, no, we talked today and I know he was planning on giving updates. We talked right back before the meeting.
Okay, let me just, we can just hold a second. Let me see if I can reach him on the phone here. Yes, Henry had some connection issues, but he's logging back in right now. So if we can just pause for a moment, and he's in the process of logging back on. So we'll just hang out for a few minutes.
Sorry about that. I had connection problems.
No problem.
So I assume we're up to the finance report?
Yes, we're up to item number 10, the finance updates. Great.
Well, Lisa stole all my thunder. Tax revenues are holding up wonderfully well. I would just say that on the expense side, early indications of last year's budget, revenues were a little bit short of expenses by less than $1 million. However, we budgeted to be short by 6 million, and we were going to draw down fund balance. That's how we have a balanced budget every year. So from an accounting point of view, expenses exceeded revenues, but by much less than what we anticipated. So those funds go back into the fund balance. And I think, excuse me, given the fact that we had the costs and loss of revenue due to COVID, and all the reimbursements we're going to get will come in this year, I think that's a pretty remarkable result for COVID. So I don't have the details yet. We're finalizing the trial balance with the auditors, but it looks like a pretty good year given the circumstances. As we come into fiscal year 21, 22, as you see, the revenues seem to be holding up nicely. Expenses are going along as we understand. So we're dropping some revenues because of COVID and closures, and we are having a reduction of expenses. So I think we're managing well so far, and we just monitor it. If I haven't been here for a month, last month, September 15th, we closed on our second financing round where we issued, let me make sure I get this right, $53 million of bonds for refunding. And I believe they were issued at about 1.67%. And we also issued $20 million of new money debt, but that was on behalf of the WPCA and the Parking Authority. I don't know if I lost you or if you lost me. There you go. So approximately 18.5 million were for the WPCA based on their capital expenditure cash flow. They should be spending that money over the next 2 to 3 years. And about 1.5 million for the Parking Authority. And that came in at about 1.37%. So we borrowed money at almost the lowest rates. The rates have gone up subsequently. So we got lucky on the rates. We borrowed the funds that the city needs, and we're just monitoring for next year. We're moving into the budget season. We will be issuing packages to all the departments next week. Angela and I have presented the pro forma budget to the mayor, and we are going for a second discussion tomorrow. And that sets the framework. And then the departments do their analyses, make their requests, and then we have the meetings with each department. And we do that both on the operating and the capital side. So we're moving ahead as scheduled. The only other major event is the incentive retirement program that was offered. 90 people approximately were offered this incentive. The requirements were age 55 and at least 10 years service with the city. The benefits were that you would get an additional credit of 3 years service, and that if you were less than 62, normally there's a penalty for taking retirement before 62, that penalty is waived. 44 individuals have accepted that retirement incentive, and Ray Burney, the head of personnel, Leisha, the chief of staff, and I have been meeting with every chief and the department heads, reviewing not just the retirements, but the vacancies in each department, looking at how we need to fill positions, but which ones we don't need to fill. And if we do fill some, it could be retired individuals who are at the highest step level, and they may be replaced with people with less experience at a lower step level. So we are balancing the costs that would be additional costs for pension contributions and OPEB contributions, because there's less money going into the pension plan and people are drawing their funds earlier. So there's a cost to us. But at the same time, we expect to have savings by not filling certain positions or filling them at a lower salary level. And when you take all that into consideration, first of all, operationally, this is critical. In the private sector, this is normally done annually at a minimum. looking at your staffing, who's moving up, who's not performing well, evaluating. In government, it's not really done that often because there's very little turnover. Once people are here 3 to 5 years, they tend to stay until retirement. So you don't get that turnover, especially in a heavy unionized workforce. So this is an opportunity. The last time we offered this incentive was 10 years ago. So this is a once in a multi-year opportunity to really examine our workflow, our resources, how they're assigned, and making sure that we have the right resources in the right places for the future. And the department heads have stepped up. People have been very straightforward, creative, and I think it's going to result in very good results once all these changes take place. On the financial side, we were hoping that the savings outweigh the costs. And right now, we haven't finalized the details, but it looks like we will have savings on an annual basis after all these moves. So operationally, it will be a major plus for the organization, and financially, we're also going to have a positive. So it's something we have to work through. So between COVID and the retirements and turnover and hiring new people, people are going to have to step up. There's a lot of activity, but I think long-term, it's setting a foundation for the future in a very positive way. Last thing I would talk about would be on the investment side. We have an investment manager and advisor at Morgan Stanley who's been working with us for many years. And I view it as two buckets of funds that he works on. One is long-term funds that we have. And sometimes those are funds from bonds that we borrow, where he's investing those funds until we draw them down and use them for capital projects. The other is our insurance fund. And the insurance fund, a little bit like the pension fund, has a more liberal investment policy. So we don't have to keep more than 40% in bonds. So we're able, in a very conservative manner, to expand the investment choices. In November of last year, we consulted and I decided to take everything out of equities, and we are 100% in bonds. So again, we got a little bit lucky. We cashed out after 10 years of run-up of those investments and went to more conservative investments. And because we went into bonds then, right now, that insurance fund is giving us a yield of 1.42%. So we're getting 1.42% on our money, but just as a reference, the state of Connecticut STIF funds, the short-term investment funds, are paying 0.06%, and the 10-year treasuries are paying 0.77%. So by actively managing those funds, migrating them in the mix between equities and bonds, we're doing well on that investment. We also have other long-term funds, just cash that we have that we don't need immediately. So he's able to go out a little bit further on the yield curve, and we're getting 1.06% on those funds. The bond funds, as you may be aware, because of IRS arbitrage rebate requirements, we are not allowed to invest and get a return greater than our tax-free borrowing rate. So the bonds that we borrowed last year, the $50 million, we're getting a 0.92% interest rate. The bonds that we've just recently done this summer are in the 0.1214% range. So we try to optimize what we're borrowing. We try to optimize what we're investing. Chitsme and I on a regular basis are doing cash flow projections to make sure we have cash available as the city needs it for operations or for capital expenditures. And we're working with all the departments on capital projections, cash flow projections there for the same reason. How much do we need to borrow? And how do we keep our investments liquid enough so that we have cash when it's available? So that's sort of the finance wrap-up. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're extremely thorough. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Just wanted to mention, Henry, you did mention the upcoming budget cycle. And at the November meeting, we'll share the budget cycle schedule in terms of all of the dates, in particular for this committee when we'll be meeting with the BET or sharing information, I should say, with the BET, meeting with the Board of Ed, et cetera, dates for when the council has to set the cap. Those types of key dates will lay all those out to you so you have them for the entire budget cycle, starting in November all the way through to the closing of the budget.
Absolutely. Angela's done an excellent job on scheduling everything. So for example, the IT department has to go out to other departments to understand their technology needs so that they can build their budgets, so they get more time. There are other departments that are smaller, that are more straightforward, so they get less time. So we have a calendar, one calendar that shows the
Looks like we might have.
of both budget cycles on a calendar basis. It gives you 3 different views depending upon what you're looking for. I think it'll be very helpful. I don't know where I'm going and what meeting I'm in unless I refer to that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Henry. So with that, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Councilmember Hooverman moves the motion. All those in favor, simply raise your hand, and it looks like we have a majority, so we're adjourned. Have a great rest of the evening, and we'll see everyone on Tuesday at the caucus meeting. Thank you.
Be well, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.